guys, Dear Yoongi here, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I thought it would be fun to discuss some of the iconic songs that got me into K-pop. I have uploaded a video in the past talking about some of the songs that made me stan some of my favourite artists, but I've not really focused in on the groups of songs that within my first few months into K-pop made me decide to stick around and carry on listening. Before we get going, all my usual disclaimers apply in the sense that these are just my opinions and these are the songs that were the starting point for where I am today. I would love to hear some of yours in the comments if you don't mind sharing them, and I'm not sure how anything I say in this video could be potentially misconstrued as offensive, but just in case, I am of course not intending to send any hate to any artist or individual in this video or any of my others. I know I'm not sure how anything in this video is going to be seen as hateful, but you never know, it doesn't hurt to be safe rather than sorry. Okay, sorry for all the rambling. Without further ado, let's get going. First up, let's discuss 21 Gotta Be You. I'm sure I've mentioned this an unnecessary amount of times at this point, but just for anybody who is newer here, this is actually the song I remember starting off my K-pop journey and getting me into K-pop in general. So there was no doubt I had to include this song in today's video, because without it, I wouldn't currently be in my 8th year of being a K-pop stan, and I wouldn't be Dear Yoongi typing this right now, or well, speaking this. It's speaking time now. I mean, I do kind of believe I was destined to get into K-pop eventually, and if it wasn't this song, I'm sure it would have been another, but anywho, I digress. I remember the very first thing that pulled me in about this song simply being the thumbnail of the music video on YouTube. I was just having a general scroll through all the social medias and watching some stuff on YouTube one evening after school when I noticed that I kept seeing the same video being suggested to me for what felt like ages, not knowing at the time that the MV had only been out for like 2 days. That's how often I was on YouTube. But in the end, I kind of just ended up clicking it to be like, right, what even is this? So I can get out of my suggestions and get something different there for a change. But then it had the complete opposite effect, and I ended up immediately loving the song and being so curious by this group, particularly CL and her rapping. And that's when, of course, I got even more into 21 because they kept appearing more in my suggestions and I fell right down the rabbit hole. And I'm still in that rabbit hole 8 years later. I don't think I'm getting out now. The next song we're going to talk about, I guess, is kind of a funny one, and that is EXO Wolf. I know how some people felt about this song, and I'm pretty sure I included this song in my first video where I talked about cringy or cheesy K-pop songs I low-key love as like guilty pleasures, which by the way I may or may not be working on another part of soon, so stay tuned. I believe we're on like part 3 now. I have a lot of not so guilty pleasures. But yeah, I have been very vocal in the past about how much I loved this song from first listen, and I think it's for all the reasons that some people hated it. I liked that this was a kind of silly and quote-unquote weirder release. I liked that it was different from anything I'd really heard much of before. I know existing EXO-Ls probably weren't impressed to see them take on a more questionable concept, but for me this was the first song I was ever hearing from EXO. So because I had literally no other preconceptions of them or their style so far, it was really fun to hear the sort of sound and concept I hadn't really seen before and being like, okay, what is this? I'm intrigued. And because I was so intrigued, I clicked through a few of EXO's videos that came up in suggestions, and they became the first K-pop boy group that I properly stanned and got into fully. All thanks to that one song some fans might think is a bit more of a cringy part of their discography they don't want to talk about. So I mean, it must have done something right to make me want to stick around, and I bet I'm not the only new stan that this song drew in. I can't be. The next song I remember helping me get into K-pop was Girls' Generation Hoot. Weirdly enough, it wasn't the music video that I saw first when I heard this song. I watched that much later when I of course realised there had to have been one, but the thought had never crossed my mind prior. I believe it was a stage performance on one of the music shows that YouTube thought I should check out, and yet again the algorithm was right and I loved the song. I believe this was actually the first SNSD song I ever actually heard. I wasn't used to seeing like a larger group with 9 members. That was a lot of members to me at the time. Of course things have changed nowadays. All wearing similar outfits and like dancing in like perfect beautiful synchronization. For a little bit of backstory context, I was actually a huge One Direction stan before I got into K-pop. Don't know if I've ever mentioned that before. So like every sort of thing that was just normal in K-pop was so new for me that it just felt so fascinating every time I discovered something new. So by this point I was learning that there were so many different kinds of groups with the potential to grab my attention. And I remember being so addicted to this song and how catchy the chorus was, you know, with the trouble, trouble, trouble part in the chorus, where they do like the canon of the choreography in their formation. I was like obsessed with that. And it was such a little little picky thing, but isn't it funny the things you remember? So much to the point that I believe I watched every stage of this song that I could physically find, to see the different outfits, to see the choreography. I think even though it wasn't the first K-pop song I actually heard in general, this is probably one of the first ones I remember really adoring. Okay, next up we're going to talk about another song from my early K-pop days, Lee Hyori, Bad Girls. Imagine me, a baby K-pop fan, clicking through any songs that YouTube suggests to me and discovering this music video. If you haven't watched it or heard this song before, I definitely recommend checking them both out. One, because it's a bop anyways, and Lee Hyori is incredible, but two, because you'll see what I mean by my reaction to this video, if you get me. This was another song where I didn't realize how much I loved it until I kept coming back to it to re-listen and trying to look for any and every stage performance that I could find. And I do think the music video helped out a lot as well with my love for this song, and K-pop in general. To summarize, the video kind of shows a young girl growing up being a bad girl, literally from the second she's born until she's a grown woman. And it highlights the different trials and tribulations she faces along the way, and who she as a bad girl / woman has to deal with and how. And honestly, I found it fascinating how all the situations in which a girl or woman would need to rebel throughout the different stages of their life were so accurately represented. It really clearly highlighted and put in the spotlight how as women and girls, we are often disrespected by both peers and elders throughout the entirety of our lives, and that's something we have to just naturally deal with, whether it be in an academic setting or a professional work environment, etc. It's not right, but it's something that a lot of girls can resonate with. Again, this for me was a first in my K-pop journey as a stan so far. I hadn't really seen any other artists take on such a topic yet. That's not to say there wasn't any, it was just for me at this time, this was the first one I'd seen from K-pop. And I really respected Lee Hyori for that, and it really deepened my love for K-pop. Next up, this video absolutely would not be complete without talking about the iconic song that is Miss A, Hush. Kiss, kiss, baby, hush, 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 baby, jump. Part of me thinks that this song must have played some part in a lot of people's K-pop stan origin stories, especially if they got into K-pop around the same time frame that I did, but if not, it definitely played a part in my origin story at least. What initially drew me in about this song is that it's so simple but effective. When you actually read the lyrics, there's not really a great deal going on when you take away the repetition parts, but that's not what we're really focusing on. We're more concerned with that choreography. I mean, like the shower curtain and the bar, that was so iconic, or the rail, shower curtain rail, you know, I don't know. And we're also more focused on how solid the concept is and how well it suits them. Again, it's simple but effective. I was still a K-pop newbie when I discovered this song, but it was absolutely one of the first ones where I remember being shook. Like, it got me excited about K-pop. This song still has that longevity where it's still iconic to this day, and I still love it just as much as I did back then. I'll listen to it if it comes on shuffle. Other groups were still covering this song for years after it came out, both male and female idols, and I love that it's one of those songs that felt like it kind of bridged a gap between what was seen as a girl group concept versus what a boy group should be doing. Because we can all agree that I think no matter what style of K-pop you prefer or whatever you stan, this song was just simply iconic, and a lot of people inside and outside of the industry respect it. Another song I want to thank for helping me become the K-pop stan that I am today is Taemin, Danger. I'm pretty sure when I heard this song for the first time, I knew it was a solo debut of a SHINee member, but I didn't really know anything about who SHINee were yet, let alone this member in particular. But very, very quickly, I'd say within like the first minute or so of listening to the song, I was like, okay, this is going to be an artist for me, I can just see it. I hate to be the person who always makes comparisons, but aside from being a One Direction stan prior to getting into K-pop like I mentioned earlier, one of my favourite artists in the West of all time has always been Michael Jackson. You know where this is going, don't you? When I first heard this song and saw the way Taemin aced the performance and pulled off this concept so well, I could honestly say that this was the first time I felt like I'd seen an artist that came close to the mastery of Michael Jackson in a very long time. Like, I was in awe. This song in particular is another one where I think I watched every single stage performance I could find religiously like it was my job. I think I would actually say this became one of my favourite K-pop songs ever, and when I went to go see Super M in London and he performed this song, oh my god guys, I was a wreck. I was literally like in a fever dream that just felt so perfect and everyone wanted to wake up from it. Honestly, when I first heard this song, that should have been the moment there and then that I decided to look into SHINee, because I think once I saw the rest of the group and heard their talent, then I'd have been ulting them pretty much on the spot. Unfortunately, it took me a few more years to do that, but hey, I'm here now. Next song we're going to talk about in my songs that got me into K-pop is Vic's Error. I I love talking about this song, I really do, because it holds a special place in my heart as the song that made me stan one of my favourite groups, and also helped me get fully into standing groups in general. Because like I said so far, I was only really standing EXO fully, and I was listening to a lot of music more casually, but I remember the first time I heard this song, just once, and it made me decide that I wanted to stan VIXX on the spot, so that's exactly what I did. The song to me is kind of just perfection, because it has this great combination of like the classical influences, but also is still an upbeat pop song. The concept ties in perfectly with the choreography, so much that from the beginning pose they manage to suck you in and you're hooked. I also always somehow managed to end up biasing the rappers, so when I heard Ravi's rapping in this song, it was like I'd already picked a bias, and I'm like 2 minutes into my experience with this group. It was that easy. So in a way, I guess this song kind of helped me realize how easy it is to fall deep into a K-pop group once you find one that's perfect for you and your tastes. Nothing felt forced, like I wasn't making myself like this group or this song, there was no force there. It just kind of felt like the exact sort of style for me, and when I looked into them further and discovered that being the concept kings was kind of their thing, and that they could pull off every concept, that was it, I was sold. As somebody who is super artsy, that was so fascinating to me. So because of how much they brought to the table for K-pop, and how much they offered to us as stans, I am always thankful to VIXX in a way it's probably different to most, because for me, they're one of those groups who made me want to properly get into standing groups, whereas prior to them, I was just more of a casual listener, finding songs here and there that I liked. And last but most certainly not least, for today's video, Teen Top Miss Right. I think I remember hearing this song around the same time as Rocking, also by Teen Top, and I absolutely loved both, but I've decided to include Miss Right in this video because it's the song I personally prefer of the two. It is hard to pick, I won't lie, and this is also the one that I just feel like I remember playing a bigger part in helping me get into K-pop. I don't remember how I stumbled across this song, to be honest, which is strange. I just always remember it being a part of my K-pop styling life, if that makes sense. I just remember always loving it from whenever I first heard it, and then that was it, it was there. This song is just so iconic to me. I feel like it and Teen Top in general stood out so much for me at that time in what was quickly becoming a sea of groups, songs, and concepts to explore. This song felt very different than anything I'd heard so far in my K-pop journey, and I do mean different in the very best way. You can hear so much personality through the song, and I'd heard so many people talk about how K-pop was just so purely manufactured to the point where there was like no realism in the music, and this song helped me realize, even more so than ever, that that was just not true, because it's like so much of their own vibe and energy through the song that it showed me, although yes, there is some truth in what people are saying about K-pop, that doesn't necessarily mean that I couldn't find joy and more fun, light-hearted touches within the genres too. Not to sound weird, but this song still to this day just makes me like super happy, because it reminds me of like a super innocent time where I was just so excited to discover more and more gems within K-pop to love, and that's the sort of thing that kept me coming back for more. Okay guys, and that was it for today's video. Has anybody noticed that as the video goes on, I get more and more passionate and start rambling more and more about each song? I can only apologise for that, but thank you so much for watching if you got this far. There will absolutely be more of these songs, so let me know if there's a part 2 if you'd like to see that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I would love to hear some of the songs that got you into K-pop in the comments. So not just like the very first song you heard, but also if you remember the first few songs you listened to within like your first few months of getting into K-pop. Wow, how many times can I say first in one sentence? If you're new here and have not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the notification bell. That should let you be the first to hear whenever I upload. And as always, my social medias will be on screen. That is my Twitter and my Instagram. I always follow back fellow K-pop stans, so let's be friends. And I'll see you next time. Bye guys!